Welcome back to Off Guard. I'm your host, Austin Rivers, along with my co-host, Pausha Haghighi. We are back, as always. Deadline heating up. A lot of stories kind of going around the NBA right now. Obviously, we dropped the pod since the Trae Young trade. A lot has happened in terms of just chatter, I guess. I guess a lot hasn't happened. Only chatter is a better way to put it. How are we feeling right now, even like where we're at in this? It doesn't feel like there's a blockbuster move.
So last year the prize was like Cameron Johnson, right? Cam Johnson was the prize everyone wanted. No one got him. The Nets hung on to him. This year, the guy you got traded for might be the prize, Michael Porter Jr., who we've been talking about in the last few pods of how good of a season he has,
Yeah.
how he's changed the perception about him. I wanted to ask you, now that you've had the weekend to kind of digest what happened with Trae Young, because we did that pod like right after. Now that you've had the weekend to kind of think about it, and seeing his post, and he took some subliminal shots right at the Hawks organization. How do you feel now that it's been a few days? Because I feel kind of sad thinking about his tenure with them and what he meant to the city. He's in like Migos songs and all this stuff, and the way it ended, I actually feel like really bad. Actually, it's like sad that it ended that way. How do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, you always have a weird taste in your mouth when you see a guy who's had a long tenure somewhere and it doesn't end amicably. It's one of those things where, like, even if you understand, like, it was time for Trae to move on from Atlanta. It was time. I think he knew it. The organization knew it. The timing and the surgence of this young core, mainly Jalen Johnson. I think they knew he was going to be good. Do I think they thought he was going to be this good? I don't know. I think all these things prompted for this trade to happen, right? So it's funny because we saw it coming. We've heard his name in the rumors for years. And then when it happens, everybody's like, God, it just doesn't feel right. We're like, what? And it feels like that because of what he's done. He's carried this team to the playoffs multiple times. Pretty sure he has just about every major statistical record for the Hawks. I think he's all-time leading in points. Probably he is assist. He beat my Pop's record a couple years ago. So he is a Hawks legend, whether people in Atlanta acknowledge that or not. Like you said, Migos, the culture of Atlanta hip hop has accepted Ice Trae, even gave him obviously the nickname. So I tend to always think about all the good moments instead of, getting into, just the negativity of it all, the subliminal shots, all that jazz. Players have feelings. It happens. I've been there. Obviously, I've never been a key component of an organization like, Trae has for so long. But it was time. It was time. You know what I mean? There's just no other way to look at it. And I think for both parties is what it is.
And we've seen this before with Anthony Davis with the Pelicans, or like Paul George when he's leaving the Pacers, where it reaches a point where it's that time to leave, and it might be a bad breakup. How much does that stay with the player? Like years later, do you think of Anthony Davis with that breakup with the Pelicans, or does it stay with you, or?
It depends. It's like, does Klay Thompson probably think about the Warriors a lot? And vice versa? Yes, I'm sure. I'm sure both
The NBA
parties
does. They made it a Christmas game out of it still, so the
Yeah,
NBA still
yeah,
thinks about it.
yeah. Like I think the something like that for sure. And I think Trae obviously doesn't fall into the same branches like what Klay did in Golden State, but individually, yes, they're on the same tier. Obviously, just the winning and Klay being a part of championships with that team just hits a little different. But individually, player to player, Trae got all the records in Atlanta. He's been there for, how many years? Was it 8, 9?
Someone said the other day he's the most exciting or influential player in Atlanta since Dominique Wilkins, and I was like, I don't know if that's true or not, but that's crazy. You know what
Well,
I mean? That's a big deal.
who else would even be in that conversation?
Obviously, like Al Horford, Joe Johnson
Oh no,
teams.
no, man, no, not more than Trae Young. Not more than Trae Young. Not from an individual standpoint.
What about the
Joe
one
Jo-
seed? What about the one
Joe
seed? Jeff
Johnson,
Teague, Kyle Korver teams. Team.
but we're talking about individual.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, none of those guys come. Jeff Teague doesn't come close to
Didn't they like get player of the month one time or something? It was like the whole Hawks starting lineup. They like shared player of the week or month or something. That was crazy.
That team was good, but they were overrated though, in
Okay.
my opinion. I thought that Hawks team that had all those all star. I mean, obviously they went to the playoffs and just they lost. You know what I mean? So it's like one of those teams that had that Hawks team reminds me of like what last year's Cavs team was. You know,
It's tough.
very good regular season team. Um, but ultimately there were other teams in the Eastern Conference that we just still had over them, and I think that's comparison to the that Atlanta team. In regards to where he's at, yeah, I think you put Dominique and Trae. Those are the two guys we talk about Hawks history. So that's the company he's in. You know, Dominique Wilkins currently does the play-by-play or color commentary for the Hawks. So it tells you, you know, the legacy in which, the human highlight film, Ice Tray, the nicknames. Obviously, neither of them were ever, able to win a championship, but Trae Young did get that team to the conference finals. He has dragged that team to the playoffs. They have gone to the play-in and won out and made the playoffs. He's like I said, he has all the records. He has been there for a long time. 8 years, man. 8 years is a long time, especially in modern day NBA, where a lot of these stars are requesting to move and things can get sour real quick. Um, Trae is an absolute legend in Atlanta, and there's no other way to look at it. And it just happens. It feels weird because you don't want these things to end this way. The subliminal shots, all that, like the way the Klay Thompson thing ended in Golden State was terrible. It left a bad taste, I think, in everybody's mouth. But unfortunately, in sports, it gets to the point where it's a "what have you done for me lately" league. And even though you've cemented this legacy and they're supposed to do right and do all these things, which a lot of teams do, you saw Portland went back and paid Damian Lillard in 2 years 40 or something. Like he wasn't even going to play. They just gave it to him, just like, yo, here you go, thanks. You know what I mean? Like just because of what he's done for Portland, and he's going to end his time there. So you see the stories sprinkled in that kind of give you hope. Um, who knows? Maybe he returns to Atlanta down the line. You know what I mean? That's why you should never leave in a bad way. The subliminal shots, the burn the bridges, you just don't know because with time, things heal. People gain perspective with time. Trae might have, a few years with other teams and he gets to a different understanding of what he had in Atlanta, or maybe Atlanta gets an understanding of what they had in Trae, and then parties can come together like, hey, we want you to finish here. So hopefully something like that could happen. That's what I like to see when I see a guy be on a team for so long. Like I've seen Devin Booker play in a Phoenix jersey so long. Like I don't really want to see him play for anybody else. Now, I've contradicted that statement by saying, like, man, I think Devin needs to be on a competitive team. He's just on this Phoenix team. He's just wasting away over there. So it's hard. You play both sides of the fence. It's like
Right.
Trae's name's been in the rumors now forever. How we want Trae to go play on a playoff team. Obviously, him go to DC for me doesn't really move the needle, but it's a fresh start nonetheless. And it is what it is.
It's interesting too because I think about it's almost as if when you're with a team and you're the best player and you don't win a title, years go by. Eventually, there's kind of like a messy breakup. But like in the '90s, for example, '80s and '90s, like John Stockton was on the Jazz for 13 years until they made the finals for the first time. Like Reggie Miller was on the team. They made the finals finally in like the year 2000 against the Lakers. Like
Yeah,
he got
yeah,
drafted in the '80s. They would like now it's like if you don't win that title, like your James Harden maybe on the Rockets. Eventually, there's like a messy breakup because if you don't reach that pinnacle, the team's kind of like, all right, I guess we got to rebuild, restart, type of thing, right? Like it's just
correct.
interesting if you don't win a title with the team, it's kind of hard to be there for a really long time. Devin Booker's a good example. I like where the Suns are at now, and I wouldn't have said that this offseason. I wouldn't have been like, I like where this team's going, but I guess we already gave the credit to Dylan Brooks a lot and their coach.
Yeah, I think we vastly underestimated Dylan Brooks' culture ability, and their coach for that matter. So they've obviously been the two unsung heroes in the turnaround in Phoenix, and there's other names that you could throw in the list of guys who have really played hard and helped Phoenix win games. Gillespie, some other guys, but at the top of that list, I think is Dylan Brooks. So again, I don't see the new fit for Trae being this prominent situation for him. I see him putting up numbers there. I don't know exactly what he does in DC, and it has nothing against DC or the organization. They're still like 3-4 pieces away, from even being competitive,
Yeah.
respectfully.
I feel like another player heading towards the same kind of breakup is Ja Morant. It recently was announced that the Grizzlies are entertaining trade ideas for Ja Morant. that would be obviously like 2 or 3 years ago. If you would have told me, I would have thought John Morant would have been a Grizzly for life. Like he was a big part of the culture there. Everything they were really successful, and he was one of the most entertaining players in the NBA. Do you see off the top of your head a fit for him? I know maybe many people have been saying the Miami Heat or the Timberwolves. What do you personally see for him?
Man, it's tough because he's such a dynamic athlete that he he makes you excited thinking about him joining like a new situation. And then he's very particular with his game. So it's not just like an easy fit. He's not and again, this player is not as prominent as Ja Morant, but like Con Knipple, right? He's a rookie. I'm just naming a name. He's not a superstar or anything like that yet, or obviously he's having a hell of a rookie year, but his game fits every team in the NBA. He plays the right way, doesn't take bad shots, and shoots the hell at the ball. Can score the ball, very efficient, consistent, simple to deal with, easy to deal with, no drama, no problems, stays out the way, does his job. That appeals to everyone. It appeals to everyone. A lesson in this jaw thing is no matter how up you are, there's a certain humility a star has to always remember and hold. And I'm not saying Ja moves around without humility, but there was a time period there where it's the mistakes on, his social medias and the stuff in the game. And then he had a problem with the coach. Then the coach got fired. And, obviously his pops does his stuff on the sidelines. There's a lot. It's called baggage. Now, again, I don't got a problem with Ja Morant. I'm a big fan of him. I love his pops T. He's actually a friend of mine. Every time I see him, we give nothing, but love to each other. But Austin Rivers doesn't have to deal with that every day. And it's easy when Desmond Bane and you and Jaren Jackson and this team that you had early on are winning games, going to the playoffs and competing and pushing teams to the brink. It's all good. Once things start to waver off and the team's not performing, and then Bane leaves, and this happens, and this guy gets fired, and now the team's not a, contending team. But the behaviors and the actions, not that I'm saying they're wrong, but they're the same. They start looking at them different. It's like DeMarcus Cousins has always been DeMarcus Cousins. There's never a problem until he wasn't averaging 20 and 10 a game. And then it's like, oh, we don't want to deal with him. So I see this with Ja. Teams know this. And because of that, it's a very tricky spot with him because he's intriguing because of his talent. But then you think, okay, well, he's not a shooter. So it's like a team like a Bucks who's like desperate to make a trade. That doesn't make a lot of sense. I love Ja and Giannis on one end. It's like, man, I'm just thinking all these dunks and like this excitement. And on the other end, I'm like, man, they don't have a lot of shooting. Now, granted, that team has so many sharp shooters around them that maybe they can allocate something for that. But I would imagine what they'd have to give away to get Ja, I don't know what they'd have left anyway. So it'd just be like Ja and Giannis out there, two great players, but they're non-shooting players. So the teams would just pack the paint and just beat them with threes. You know what I mean? It's like going to a LA Fitness and you're going to 12. If one team shoots threes the whole game, the other team is just shooting layups. The team with threes is usually going to win the game most of the time. So it's just to break it down in the simplest terms. So
There you go.
it's like I don't know. He's so particular. He would have to be traded to a situation where he has so much around him that fits his game. He's not a Kisper. He's not a. He's
Well,
not
a player that you could use in that regard is like Drew Holiday.
Not Kisper.
Drew Holiday, for example.
Correct.
Right?
Appeals to
Like
everyone.
if your team already has a point guard, you could still bring in Drew Holiday. Like it's okay, right? Like they'd figure it out in the backcourt. You know what I mean? Like, or if your team doesn't even have a point guard, Drew Holiday could do that too. He's an
100%. 100%. And
add-on.
listen, this is, and again, I want to make this clear. This isn't like a shot at Ja. It's just the reality of what his game is and everything that he brings as a package with him. We saw this similar just with Trae. Like, Trae's a really good player. Has put up numbers for years. His value wasn't as high as what people thought it was. Look at the trade that they got back from him. They got C.J. McCollum and Kisper with no picks for a six-time All-Star. It makes like damn near no sense. But that just tells you Atlanta was putting his name out there and teams are like, eh. Because like a Drew Holiday can come off the bench. Drew Holiday can play the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, the 5. He can play whatever the you want to play him. He's like Caruso. You just put him out there, right? Obviously, Caruso's nowhere near Drew Holiday, but you get what I'm saying. These guys have adaptive roles, zero ego, and are pretty much another coach in the locker room. teams love these guys. Not to say that people hate Ja. Ja ain't go to no team and coming off the bench and being okay with coming off the bench. Ja's not okay with not having his ball in his hands. He has to have the ball in his hands because otherwise he can't be Ja. He's not a sharp shooter. So he has to have the ball in his hands. All of these little dots, again, make it more complicated to move a man. Now, Trae can shoot, but Trae needs the ball in his hands. Trae's a very ball dominant point guard. In fact, he's one of the most ball dominant point guards we've seen in the modern day game, him and Luka. So even though he's very good and he puts up numbers and he has all these accolades, again, respect to Trae, big fan of his game, he's hard to move. He also is a liability on defense. Some of these things, teams are just like, I don't know. So you saw that trade happen with the Wizards. That was the first domino for me, or like I should say, light bulb in my head went off like, oh wow, some of these guys' values aren't as high as what people think they are. And I don't think it's just Ja, and I don't think it's just Trae. I think some of these middle-aged NBA players who are all-stars that still demand a lot and get paid a lot, value is not as high as what they think they are. Because so many teams are starting young. They're looking at this draft. They're looking at the draft after that. And they're like, teams want picks. I've never seen picks have more value in my life than right now in the NBA. So right now, when you look at some of these middle-aged, these 32, 31, 28, 29, been in the league for 8, 7, 9 years, something like that.
Young, hey, Austin, honestly, a little younger than that, like Zion and Trae, uh, that's kind of like in Ja Morant, these guys like they're not that even that old, but even LaMelo Ball, like how much is it that the team is bringing down their value as well? If I can't tell, like sometimes I feel like
Man,
these guys' value isn't that high, but is it the team that's not really like I don't
uh,
know.
it doesn't help when things are out loud. Like, I don't like the move Nico made, right? I don't think anybody did. That's why he's now with the Dallas. But at least there was no murmurs of him shopping Luka around. It happened quick. They did it under the radar. There's no room for drama. Once everybody knows you're selling a house, they know you need to sell the house. They're going to start throwing all type of prices at you. Not good ones either, because they know you need to sell. So when you see like turmoil with Ja, like the Grizzlies are moving Ja and all these things. And again, I don't know how you control this because you have so many like leaks and Shams and all these guys have their jobs. But like, it's just, I don't know how you do this. You know what I mean? It's just like, I don't know if the teams help with that stuff, especially when certain, like, you could see it and it doesn't help the value. It makes it harder to move the guy. I think teams sense that a team is desperate. But I don't know how much of an organization I could blame for that because I don't know what they could control. At the end of the day, you do have to have conversations, and if people are talking, they're talking. Like, it is what it is. I think people also have saw as soon as Jalen Johnson had this season, I think people are like, "Oh yeah, this is the year. This is it. Like, they're gonna move Trae now because this kid's special." It happens, so it's interesting.
Another thing too for me with the John Morant situation specifically is like Zion, for example, when he plays, it feels like for the most part he's good. I don't know if the stats back me up on that. It's just about him being available. With John Morant, his actual play has been a little concerning. Like he doesn't get to the basket as much. His 3-point shot isn't getting better, right? Like so some of the stuff about his actual game is not trending the right way. Where with Zion, it's more like his availability, right? With Anthony Davis, it's availability. With Anthony Davis plays, numbers are good. The availability is never there. Would you trade for an Anthony Davis at this point if you're a contending team like the Raptors or
No,
you're not touching him?
not AD, and I love AD. AD's my dog. He's a special player. He's a Hall of Famer, top 75 player. But where he's at in his career, he just gets injured so much, man. I mean, look at his list of injuries in Dallas. Um, so I get skeptical of throwing a lot for AD. And now if it was AD for like a player or two, nothing too major, then that's fine. But if you're gonna throw like a couple picks in there and like two young players for a guy that's got however many years left playing, that of which who knows how much will be injury filled, God forbid, but just going off the history of
He said
recent
they
years
said
at least.
he wants an extension after this deal.
Hey man, listen, I I wouldn't throw a lot at AD in terms of trade value. Just because of his injuries. Got nothing to do with his game. And I'm not even saying AD is soft. His injuries usually are like legitimate injuries. It's just the way he is. I don't know what it is. This isn't the Pelicans when he was young and played a lot of games or early LA years. This is obviously man like dog. AD came in the same draft I came in. I have a podcast now. All right. Time has moved. So it's like to throw a whole bunch at him at his age where he's at, 32, 33 years old with all these injuries, how many years he has left, it doesn't make a lot of sense. A team like the Raptors who are actually having an overachieving year, um, I think you just sit tight. Not for AD though. You know what I mean? Let's just wait for maybe a better name. I know now feels like the time because they have guys performing high and their values are high and they want to make some moves to maybe even get better. I don't know if AD is the needle that, kind of threads it for them, to be honest with you.
How would you feel about a team like the Miami Heat giving up like a Tyler Hero for a Ja Morant? And the Miami Heat hoping, it's easy to get excited about, hey, if we bring in Ja Morant, what if we get the Ja Morant of a couple of years ago, along with Bam and some of these other guys, Khalil Ware, like this could be a good move. Would that excite you if you're Miami, or would you rather stick tight with Tyler Hero? Because I feel like Tyler Hero is another guy that the Miami. It feels like every year people talk about him potentially getting traded.
Yeah, I mean, that one's not bad. That's one of the better moves I've heard, just in terms of fit. Ja gets to go somewhere, have the ball in his hands. You have, has athletes around him. You have Powell, you have Bam. I mean, they could find some shooting in there that they could sprinkle in around him. He's in an organization that's going to hold him accountable. You're going to have Ja, on a team that they take their body fat every Friday. You know what I mean? Like, they're as strict as it comes in Miami. They do their due diligence with their players. That might benefit a guy like Ja.
Oh, I just looked at my
Yeah.
phone and it said breaking: the Timberwolves have explored trading for Ja Morant.
Yeah, that's been going on a lot.
Do you like the fit with Ant? I mean, that Timberwolves team better than most.
Um, yeah, depending on what they give up, man. Again, like I don't want just Ja and Ant. Again, I love Ja, but he could crowd the paint for Ant. So it just depends on what you're able to get off. What are they moving for Ja Morant? You know what I mean? If it's not Julius Randle's involved in this, then you're gonna have Julius, Ja, and Ant. There are zero spacing on that floor, and they're three guys that have to make. No offense to all three of them, because they're all three great, talented players, but their greatness comes with the ball in their hands. All right, it's not a Drew, it's not a Clay. These aren't spacers. They're not floor spacers. These guys aren't hustle guys. They're not hard. No, these are offensive minded, scoring guards and a power forward. And neither of them are, with the exception of Ant, are like, Julius is a pretty damn good shooter as well. But they both take their time with their shot. It's not like Ant's not coming off pin downs, catching it, throwing it, going off another pin down, spot shot. There's not, see how much movement is involved. He's more of coming off, get it. Now he's going to come off a pick and roll, stutter step back, three. So I don't know how that fits, but I can tell you people would be very excited. Now, the argument would probably be, well, okay, Austin, we've had this Timberwolves team here now for a few years. We're good, but we're not good enough. So we've run into a wall. This is a move that can maybe bring some excitement to us. Maybe we need another playmaker than Ant. Michael Conley's old. We need a guy. Maybe Michael Conley gets to go back to Memphis and finish where he started. You throw him in as a bonus. Maybe you get like Michael Conley. Obviously, you'd have to have a premier player to get Ja, and then you bring Ja in. Now you got this kind of energized. I mean, you talk about must-see basketball, the ticket sales. People going to see, Ja Morant and Anthony Edwards on the same team, the high-flying guards of the league. People would be very excited, and I understand from the Timberwolves front office standpoint, they're like, we've had this team now for 3 years straight, man. The argument would be, well, you've gone to the conference finals 2 years straight too. Let's not run away from that. You're not too far away, man.
Yeah.
So, forget the regular season's the regular season, but you guys go to the playoffs and have done pretty damn well with this squad. So let's not just piss away. Jaden McDaniels just can't be thrown away here. Do you understand what I'm saying? We got to be careful about what we're giving up for Ja, is all I'm saying. I do like it. That's one of the better fits. But, yeah.
But it's tough. I saw this online where someone said going from Mike Conley at point guard next to Ant and that personality, what he brings, to a Ja Morant is such a drastic change for a team that's been in the, like you said, been in the conference finals the last 2 years. I feel like the Suns of the last few years with Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, and Devin Booker showed us that you can't just do what we did 10 years ago where you put big three together and you can go win games. The three have to make sense.
Yes,
Right, the
yes,
players. So yes, adding Ja Morant to Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle, that looks really fun and that's exciting. But like the pieces have to make sense, right? Not a
correct.
lot of shooting in that group besides Ant. By the way, on sidebar, because I wanted to talk about Anthony Edwards. He had a game winner against the Spurs last night. Is he having another underrated season? His numbers are great. The Timberwolves again are like a dark horse to win the West. Are we just like not talking about them enough in his season and his growth? I feel like he's a little bit under the radar.
Yeah, it's tough because when guys have been great for so long, consistency, sometimes you don't see the marginal growth. People always want a big splash and a jump. Everybody wants, Denny, what's Portland?
Advia,
Yeah, Denny, it's got to be a Denny Advia jump. You know what I mean? For people to notice, Ant's gotten better every single season.
yeah.
But when it's marginal like that, because he's been at such a high level already, again, he's better this year than he was last year. Is it this giant jump? I don't know how much more of a giant jump you could be. He's one of the best players in the NBA. So it's like, I don't even see people talk about Shea unless it's foul baiting. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, but these guys take little marginal jumps. At that level, marginal is huge. Going from like 30 to 32 is a big jump.
I want to
It's like,
ask you, Austin, what's the like? Give me the difference between like getting from a role player. Let's say like let's go from 10 points to 15 to 15 to 20 to 20 to 20. Like, what do you
yeah,
think is like?
I think it gets harder. Obviously, the higher you get up. Like, making a jump from 10 to 15 a lot of times can just depend upon opportunity, right? A
Right.
guy who goes on one team, Nikhil Alexander averaged 10 points. He's averaging like 18, 17, whatever he's averaging, damn near 20 for the Hawks. That's Nikhil Alexander just didn't get better this summer. Now, obviously, he's probably improved a little bit, worked out, did his whole thing, came back with a couple tools sharpened. But opportunity was handed to him in Atlanta, especially with Trae out. This guy had the ball in his hands more than he's ever had in his career. Opportunity allowed that to happen. So jumping from like 10 to 15 and 20 can be done, again, if you're improving as a player and if opportunity meets it. The jump from like 25 to 30, these are guys who are already at the top. All right. These are guys who are already getting the ball in their hands. These are guys that every night they go out, the other team that they're going against, the ops, their main goal on the depth charts in terms of who they have to slow down is you. So to make a 2 or 3 point jump when you're already the number one option is a big deal. It's like what Tyrese Maxey is doing right now is incredibly, incredibly impressive. He went from being an all-star to a superstar. That's the type of jump. What Cade is doing right now, numbers wise, might not blow you away, but you see it in his play. They're just taking jumps. So I see what Ant, and you're right, he is under the radar. I don't think Ant gets enough credit. I think people are hard on him about his 3-point shooting in terms of how many he shoots, just given his athletic ability and his, ability to probably get to the line at will if he really, really wanted to put his head down. But you can't deny the success rate at what's coming. This guy's the third fastest to reach a certain amount of points. I think it was like MJ and Kobe than him. It's like, what the hell is like, that's a nutty stat. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
he's beat Steph's record for 3. I mean, he's doing it all. So it's like, you can't deny him. And even I've been hard on him, about he shoots too many threes, but like, bro, his percentages back it up, his numbers back it up. He continues to improve. He is a guy that in the fourth quarter really turns on the defensive thing. Throughout the game, he can have some, mishaps just due to how much is on the offensive shoulders of him. But yeah, I like the Timberwolves. Sometimes you don't need to just make this big jump. We talked about this in previous podcasts before in previous years. It's not always about the big splash. I love Daryl Morey. Daryl Morey's always looking for some just big ass trade. You know what I'm saying? He goes for it. Sometimes stability and consistency and just waiting your turn. You just said it. John Stockton was in Utah forever. Dirk was with those teams forever. Some of those teams are this, but that Spurs team was the same damn team. Some years it just worked. Some years these guys were clicking and it just worked. And then the next year they'd have that same team and lose first round of Memphis. And you're like, what?
That's a good point. Yeah.
You know what I mean? They didn't just go like, we got to change it. We got to get rid of Duncan, get rid of Ginobili. No, they just kept it just
That's a
staying
good
the
point
same.
because they won like 5 titles in like 15 years, like sprinkled in. It's like it wasn't like 4 years in a row and that was it. Like,
No, yeah, they
yeah,
had so many years where like they just didn't. Again, they always made the playoffs, but they just get smacked in the playoffs. You'd be like, it's the Spurs. And next year, they just couldn't be beaten. They just beaten everybody. It's the same damn team. So it's just like sometimes like consistency and chemistry and all these different things, like that stuff really matters, man.
yeah.
Yeah,
Another part about going from good to great, when you're going from okay to good, you kind of take people, you catch them off guard, right? And
yeah,
like when you're going like when you're what Tyrese Maxey or even like Anthony Edwards is doing, the scouting report has figured you out. They know everything you do, and then you're getting better still and going against them with all the attention and eyes on you, and you're still getting better at that level versus like, yeah, going out there and going from 10 to 20 or 10 to 15. It's like, yeah, maybe people weren't noticing and you caught them off guard. Anthony Edwards and Tyrese Maxey aren't catching anyone off guard. So if their stats are getting better with all the focus on them, yeah, that's probably a lot harder for sure.
and I'll
I
be
want to
honest with
talk
you, like
about.
you. Oh,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, no,
No,
no. Go for it.
I was just gonna say, even just like on an off subject, like I'm not saying you can't make a move for Ja Morant. I'm just saying it's got to make sense because the Ja Ant dynamic does excite me a little bit, and Timberwolves have had the same team, and it does seem like from the outside they're hitting a wall, but that wall's been the conference finals, guys. That's a hell of a wall to be continuing to hit. You know what I'm saying? Like it ain't like this is a team that's struggling to make the first round, or they're 2 years in a row this big roster with all these big names: Gobert, Randall, Towns before, and they just first round exits. Bro, this team's gone to the conference finals 2 years in a row. They went with Carl, they went without Carl. They got the same team back. Obviously, they lost Nikhil, which really hurt them, and they haven't really quite figured out like what they were going to do to kind of get back of what Nikhil gave them, some of that toughness, that defense. They're missing the playmaking as well because Nikhil can make a play or two. I'm not saying he's a point guard, but he can put the ball on the floor and make plays. You obviously seen what he's doing in Atlanta. Michael Conley's gotten older. There are some things there. And I talked to Mike a month ago, and he's like, this is probably it. This is probably my last year. So, like, that's where his head's at. Timberwolves are trying to win a championship. So, those things don't coincide. And it is a glaring issue with the guard spot. When I say that because it's the ball is going to end up being in Ant's hands too much in the playoffs. What happens is that he's going to end up running into a team like OKC that's very defensively sound, and they're going to be like, they only have one playmaker, guys. So every time he has the ball, we're going to load the up. They're going to have to. He's going to have to be the
So
greatest
it makes
player.
them less predictable. Their offense is less predictable for OKC.
Very. Whereas if you have a Ja Morant, it's very hard to predict what the hell they're going to do when you got two guys attacking you downhill. It's a little different. You know what I'm saying? So it does intrigue me. It does intrigue me. That excites me a little bit.
Wow,
But it's got to be the right trade.
you just got my head going a little bit about the way Dylan Harper is able to get to the paint on OKC and penetrate, and multiple guys on the Spurs being able to drive De'Aaron Fox and all these guys being able to be impactful against OKC. Might have the Timberwolves thinking, yeah, we get another guy like that going downhill, like you said, attacking instead of one guy. That's kind of the blueprint on maybe how to beat OKC. If you're the Timberwolves, you're probably thinking OKC is the only team that could really mess with us. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like no one else in the West really even scares them. They got to the
None.
conference
Other.
finals. OKC's the other
Yeah.
team, and OKC is like 7-7 in their last 14.
Yeah.
So
The OKC is only looking at two teams right now, and maybe three. But they look at Denver and they look at Minnesota as when we get to the playoffs, these are the two teams that eventually we're going to have to run into and beat. Houston with a healthy Fred VanVleet is in that conversation as well. And in the playoffs, even still, they'll be dangerous. I don't know if they could beat them in 4 times out of 7 games. I just don't see it happening. Denver is obviously a glaring issue just due to Nikola. So it's just one man. It just makes everyone. I mean, he almost beat the USA team. So yeah, but yeah, it's
did
there.
you mention the Spurs?
Oh, Spurs are very good too. I'm sorry. Yeah. Spurs are very good too. I can't. I just had like it totally just went. I don't know what just happened there. Yeah, the Spurs are special too. So it's one of those things where like I like the move. It's just got to be right. I also think, you know what, man? Like sometimes I'm not analytical. People are like, what? I'm always talking about shooting. It's very important in today's game. 3-point shooting, 3-point shooting. It's not the end all be all though. So someone probably, because I'm saying, with Ja there and Julius and Ant, there's going to be no spacing and shooting, all this stuff, right? But it's like, yeah, well, why don't you keep us in front of you? would be like a response to that. Like, okay, well, yeah, maybe we don't shoot as well as Boston, but they don't have guys that can get to the paint like us. We have now 3-4 guys that can live in the paint. They can pitch a tent down there. That's an upside to it. It's like OKC doesn't have all these marksman shooters. But they got a bunch of hoopers, and they just go out there and beat everybody. You know what I'm saying? Like they statistically 3-point shooting wise struggled a lot in previous years. They've had stretches where they couldn't buy a three, but they won the game because they got guys who could just go get a bucket and get in the paint and drive kick, drive kick, drive kick. Even the Spurs aren't like a top 3-point shooting team, but they got guys who can get to the paint at will. They got multiple guys, drive kick, drive kick, drive kick, drive kick. Makes them very, very, very hard to guard. So with all this, like, oh, Ja can't shoot. Well, Ja does have talents and skills that you can't teach. And if Ja and Ant are on the same team, you start to think about, oh, wow, that could be exciting. You know, that could be pretty good there. So that trade makes sense. The Trae Young trade was random. I thought Trae wanted to go to like a team like Orlando. You know what I mean? Or like where he could like be on a team that's at least competing for something. Like Orlando gets fully healthy and you add like a Trae Young for one of those guys, you know, that you throw in there, like this team might be contending because how open the East is. Quite
Well,
frankly.
it speaks to more of, like you said before, the Hawks didn't get a pick for Trae Young because not a lot of teams wanted him, if any, right? Like, so
Yeah, no, yeah,
that's
I
what we ended
mean,
up finding out with this Wizards
Baines
trade.
got like 15 picks for Desmond Bain.
I have a question. Since the trade deadline is coming, when you're on a team and a guy, a big star is in trade talks, is that how much does that affect the team, or does it not? It's all the same. You guys kind of keep it locked in inside, or does that affect you guys?
No, it affects the team because no one knows who's going with him, what type of gravity he pulls, especially if it's a star, and what's going to happen to our team. It's like it affects the whole thing. Of course, absolutely.
Is there a time in your career where there was the main guy might have been traded, or you on the Rockets when they swapped out Chris Paul for Russell Westbrook?
Yeah, that was weird. I also saw us like trade our star center for like a small forward, and like Covington came in and I was like, "What's going on?"
Well,
You know
what
what I
was
mean?
the
Like this
conversation like when Daryl Morey did that, and then you guys went all small ball, not even a big on the roster besides was it Tyson Chandler? Who was your big on the roster?
Tyson Chandler,
Wow, yeah. So
and
that's
actually a guy we never played, could never get in the game, Isaiah Hartenstein. Isn't that crazy? We had Isaiah Hartenstein on our team. He couldn't sniff a minute. And then again, what opportunity does. Now he's like a $90 million player. It's
starting center
unbelievable.
on the championship.
Championship OKC. Isn't that crazy? Good for Isaiah. But yeah, that happened. I mean, the Clippers years, there was a lot of just every year the rumors of what's going on with that team, the drama. It weighs teams down. It weighs players down for sure. 100%. There's no way around it.
And I mentioned the Rockets earlier. Do you think they're a team that's desperate to make a move? They're like slipping in the standings. They have such a good team with a bunch of talent, but clearly something's wrong. Like I mentioned their stats, the clutch numbers. They're 7-12 in their 19 clutch games.
Yeah. You know what's crazy is I love their roster, but clearly it's not working to the level that it needs to work. I mean, you saw KD slam his water bottle the other day. I don't know what that answer is. I'd have to do more research before I just start talking out of my neck about Houston. But that's crazy. Even in saying Phoenix has moved by them, it's crazy the year Phoenix is having. Oh man, I couldn't have called that. Right now, I think there's not a lot on the market, and I just think there's a lot of desperation with teams. Teams are saying these rosters they put together that they've spent a lot of money on, that they're not performing at the level they want. And teams are just getting bored and antsy, and they're like, we got to do something. We got to do something. You know what I mean? Like you feel it with a lot of teams, especially with teams that have big stars that you're scared of like losing or keeping happy. Like Milwaukee's over there like just trying to figure shit out. You know what I mean? Like I don't even know. I don't even call my pops anymore. I don't even want to know what's going on. I'm just gonna let him call me. Um, so it's a strange time in the NBA right now.
I have a question. So you're not on the bench today for NBC and Peacock. You're in studio today. Could you walk
Yeah,
us through the difference between obviously going to a city, going to the arena, or doing the studio work? You're in New York.
yeah. I mean, it's a lot easier in the sense that obviously you're not calling a game and you're not doing sideline interviews and the logistics are a lot easier. I pretty much just drive to the studio here in the afternoon and do a little pregame hit, a halftime hit, and a postgame hit, and then you're done. So You just have to watch. I'm doing the Boston-Indiana game. It's a weird game. They've played 3 times in the last month. Boston has beaten the hell out of them every time. Indiana obviously is a fraction of what their team is with all their injuries. So we try to make it more about Boston to keep it appealing and exciting to people, and that'll be my job tonight. And then within Indiana, even though they're not a good team, there still might be a player that's getting an opportunity that, again, this might be a wash year for the Celtics, even though they're having a really good year. But you have these guys like Walsh, the player, who have these breakout years that are only going to add to them when they get fully healthy next year with Tatum. Trade rumors with Boston, Anthony Simons is the guy whose name's been floating around a little bit, some other dudes. So that's pretty much what we'll make it about tonight. And the logistics are pretty easy. Studio stuff's easy. The games are a lot more fun.
Okay, I was going to ask you, which one do you like more?
Oh, doing games. It's not even close.
You like being back in the arena, back in the mix.
Yeah. And again, it's cool being here in New York and like doing the whole thing. Like I love NY, but like I'll go call a game in Cleveland any day of the week. I'd rather call basketball. I like watching the game, but watching it from a studio just on a TV and is a little bit less engaging.
I'm. It gives me anxiety thinking about, like, for example, we do this pod and we talk for an hour, and we can edit things. It's not live, so if you say something wrong, it's okay. You going on for like 2.5 hours, just freestyle talking and doing things. How do you? If I spoke for 2.5 hours, I think I would say something wrong, or that's something I would regret. So how do you do that? And did it even cross your mind, or did you just?
No, I mean, you know what to say and not say. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, but sometimes you get excited and you know what I mean, man. Your instinct kicks in. Something you would say to me on the couch.
It helps having a good producer. Helps having a good producer. Kind of keeps you straight, keeps you in line. We got Frank kind of watching over us, making sure we stay within the lines. Like if I start talking about something that's funny or might be this or that, it might sound great, but he'll be in there like, be careful. You know what I mean? Like, so just having someone like him watching over us definitely helps. You just kind of have to walk that line. Obviously, this isn't HBO, this is NBC. So there's certain things that can be said on national television and things that you can't. Even on Peacock, you still got to be careful. Just, what you say, who's listening, especially in today's age, my goodness. You can't really say anything. So that's kind of where I fall into the fold of just thinking about what I say first, Pausha. This is the podcast. I don't have anything negative to say because I get it all out here. I get all my shit out here on the pod. That way, by the time I get to the game, I'm just like as straight as an arrow. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is you want to hear unfiltered, come to this. This is where I talk. On air, yeah, it's a little different.
You're buttoned up and polished on air. Then
I'm in a suit. I got a hoodie on and jewelry on and blowing my nose and shit. There's all type of shit going on right now. Tonight, I have a suit on and I look like I'm selling loans. It's a little different now. Well, we'll find out obviously this week, and as these coming days unfold, we'll see if any more moves happen in the NBA. A lot of exciting chatter, some moves made, and we'll see which ones are added to that. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow us on Instagram, TikTok, the Off Guard Podcast. You could see us on Instagram, YouTube, any of those places. You can follow us along, subscribe, hit that button, and we'll be back later in the week. Y'all be easy.